Hey guys, it's your buddy Moo here. So I was on the phone with my internet service provider today due to my internet being down. And while I'm waiting for them to troubleshoot, I'm talking to the fellow on the line trying to sort it. And I was smoking a cigar, so we started talking about cigars and how he never tried them and he was interested in trying cigars, but wanted more information. And I realized a lot of people don't have information on cigars. And YouTube, this is for educational purposes. This is an educational video for educational purposes. This is teaching things. There's history here. There's actual education going on, YouTube. Get off my D. Anyway, starting with the Mayan word for cigar, or to smoke tobacco leaves, and then to the Spanish word cigarro, and now cigar, the English term used and adopted sometime in like 18 or 1730, 1730-ish. It's believed the Native American people, the indigenous folks of North America, started the use of, they would roll the tobacco up into like sticks about 8,000 years ago. That is before the Jesus, okay? 8,000 years is a very long time. That's like 2,000 years after Göbekli Tepe was used for whatever it was used for. When Christopher Columbus traveled to the Bahamas in 1492, that's where he traveled, folks, contrary to popular belief, not to what is the U.S. as a country. The local tribes gave them gifts of tobacco leaves. The indigenous folks would roll up the leaves in corn husks, and they would smoke them from the end. They'd light it and smoke the end of it, inhale the smoke that's coming out, much like one would freebase, which I don't suggest. Columbus didn't even know what he had been given. He had thought it was just this fragrant plant, and he wasn't edible, so he started throwing it overboard. And like a month later, they ended up in Cuba. And Rodrigo de Jerez, apparently a more observant person, yeah, Rodrigo de Jerez. I have a hard time with that guy's name, but being much more, capable of seeing what's going on around him. He noticed the native Cubans were rolling up the tobacco in palm leaves, and they would again light the end and smoke what came out of it. He said it was like drinking the smoke. The term smoking wasn't invented yet at the time. When Jerez brought his habit back to his hometown of Ayamonte, Spain, he was quickly imprisoned. Like, they threw his ass in shackles in jail by the Spanish Inquisition because only Satan would be able to make people blow smoke out of their mouths, they claimed. He spent 7 years in jail because they thought that he was some kind of demon-possessed person or some other silly thing. But while this was happening, and he was a prisoner, smoking started to spread all over Europe. And by the time Jerez was released from prison, tobacco was becoming an everyday part of culture. Imagine the slap in the face of the man who brought us tobacco, to spend 7 years in prison over something that is now day to day for a lot of people. Now, tobacco arrived in France in 1556, in Portugal in 1558, Spain in 1559, and in England in 1565. By, I think, 1571, it was pretty much everywhere in all of Europe. Even after the discovery of one of the most masculine things to be discovered, though, Europeans were involved, so they would just wasted the tobacco as snus. It's like a tobacco sniffing powder. You can still get it. I don't know why. I guess it's for people that want to pretend they're doing cocaine, but don't want to spend the money on it. It doesn't make sense to me. But that was sometime until the 1840 or so, when they decided, in a brief display of manliness, that the Native Americans, hey, they had this right, and cigars started to gain popularity in Europe again. But then Europeans had their chest hair, and Europeans had to give tobacco the Kathleen Kennedy treatment. It was too masculine now. We have to take tobacco and make it more something else. So cigarettes became super popular and spread everywhere, taking over popularity and killing millions and millions of people every day. They're horrible, they're disgusting, and people still use them, knowing that they're the worst thing in the world next to getting AIDS on purpose. But that is basically the digression of Europe back to its normal schedule. Back to mankinis on the beach. And anyway, thankfully the Germans decided there wasn't enough World War going on, so they needed some warring. And, hard times make strong men. During World War I, we saw the resurgence of popularity of the superior tobacco product, that is cigars. All bets were off to the sequel in World War I. The Germans didn't learn from touching the stove the first time, and one of the most iconic manly men of the time got involved in the war and decided, no, we're going to boot stomp these guys. And that was Winston Churchill. Now, Churchill was an avid cigar smoker, And as an obvious model of a masculine man, cigars took an even heartier light, and he even had a type of cigar name for him that we'll get into. So cigars gained even more popularity after World War II. World War I, they were starting to influx again. World War II, all bets were off. It was happening. So, what types of cigars are there? Well, the types kind of like follow. There are Corona, the main type. This is the benchmark of all cigars, the Corona. It's between 5.5 inches and 6 inches with a ring gauge of 42 to 41. A ring gauge being your finger. That's how we measure cigar gauges. It's like if you go to a jewelry store, they put that thing on the mandala thing, or they measure your finger out, and then they put the ring on it. You know, that's how they do that. It's a ring gauge. The Petite Corona, it's about 4.5 inches long and a 40 to 42 gauge. The Churchill, as we talked about, basically it's a longer Corona. It's like 7 inches and a 47 ring gauge. Cigars, like I said, based on that jewelry size. The Churchill was named for Winston Churchill's ring finger, allegedly. I don't know if that's actually true. You'd have to ask the founder of Davidoff. Now, Robustos, they are 4 to 3.25 inch to 5.5 inches. They're 48 to 52 in gauge. The Corona Grandes are 5 and 5/8 to 5 and 5/8 at all, and 46. But also they can be 6 inches and 50 gauge. Those are becoming more and more popular. They're on the much larger size. The double Coronas, 7.5 to 8.5, and 49 to 52 in gauge. The Pantellas, they're 5 to 7.5 inches long and 34 to 38 gauge. Lonsdale, somewhere in between the Corona and the Pantella. Then we have the Grande, which is a minimum of 4 3/4 in length and anywhere upwards of 60 gauge. These are the big boys. These are my favorites. They tend to last the longest because they have the most tobacco in them. And then you have the cigars that taper at the end. I know, there's a lot. Guys, realistically, we're going to talk about 2 at the end. It's going to make more sense. This stuff is just the extra history and a bit of education for those who want to get a little deeper, because we might as well go there while we can. Now, the types that taper on the end, there's Torpedos, Bellicosos, Perfectos, Diademas, and those are all considered pyramid-style cigars. Pyramid is also a particular shape. In other words, it just tapers. There are some other cigars that are shaped really weird. There's some cigars that are like 3 cigars wrapped together. I'm not going to get into all that. We're just talking about the basic stuff you can find at pretty much any cigar shop you go into. Cigar tobacco now is different than cigarette tobacco. And this is the important part, because cigarettes are incredibly disgusting and terrible and full of rat poison. Cigar tobacco is not. I'm not talking, guys, about the Black & Milds you get at a gas station. Those are cigarettes to make you look like you're smoking a pseudo cigar. Those are usually shaped after what we would call the, why can't I remember what the chickaroon, not chickaroons, that's, anyway, chickarones, I'm hungry. Anyway, there's another name for them, and cheroots, thank you, cheroots, in my brain somewhere. I'm trying to do as much of this from memory and not notes as possible. Obviously, some of it I need notes for. But the cheroots are these tiny little sticks. They are usually a shittier version of tobacco, of the cigar tobacco. They're not real cigars, guys. They look like cigars. They're not. They're a form of cigarette without all the extra, usually without all the extra crap they put in the rat poison they put in cigarettes. Cigarettes are disgusting again. If you smoke cigarettes, you should probably stop that. Trade it for something that's not cigarettes. Don't do meth. Now, cigar tobacco is different because cigars are aged. They go under a fermentation. The process of making a cigar is big. It's not made in a machine. They're done by hand. The cigar process, they undergo a fermentation. Basically, it doesn't produce alcohol like you would think. There's no booze in tobaccos when I say fermentation. But it makes the tobacco not taste bad. As it ferments, it becomes less like the astringent cleaning flavor that you would get from natural tobacco, which is also poisonous before it's been taken care of and cured. Do not just smoke a fresh tobacco leaf. You might die. I don't know if that's true, but I just wouldn't do it. I know it's poisonous. It does produce a far better tone at that point and overall flavor quality, and it reduces the bitterness, like the ammonia flavor you get in a lot of cigar tobacco. Especially Cubans, they don't age them quite as long. Now, from there, tobacco is aged. This is the second part. And then they are rolled. That's the third part. And then they're again aged. So it moves on from like the fermentation to 2 different aging processes that happen before the buyer gets it. Then you can age it at home. I have a couple humidors back there that I mix various cigars that I like in. And as they age, they start to develop flavor profiles of the cigars that are next to them. and you get a whole different experience. Now, cigars have three components: the wrapper, the binder, and the filler. The wrapper, obviously, is what you see on the outside of the cigar, this fellow here. The wrapper is the most expensive part of a cigar, and it's because it has to look the most pristine. If you see a cigar with a wrapper, you see some veins here, but if you see much more than that, you're not getting a real cigar, not considered a real cigar by the connoisseurs. You're getting a cheap poultry piece of crap that someone didn't take the time to find a nice piece of tobacco to wrap the binder. Now the binder is a part that you cannot see from this, but it's in here, and that is basically the same size, shape as the wrapper. And what that does is it's an uglier version of the wrapper that just holds the filler together before you dress it up. Now the filler, that's the body of the cigar. The filler is, because that's where the artisan and the person that wraps it can really put their flavor profile together, their aging process, if they've done something to alter the cigar. Some people cure it in alcohol over a while, and it becomes. I had some really nice Maker's Mark cigars that were cured in Maker's Mark, and it tastes phenomenal. Also, don't smoke, kids, because YouTube will get mad. This is an educational video. A good cigar, though, it's made from whole leaves in and out. If it's chopped up and filler like a cigarette, it's not a real good cigar. You can do that, but it's not a good cigar. I once bought a cheap cigar at my local shop. I bought a whole bundle of them for a crazy price, and you get what you pay for. They had gypsum in the cigars wrapped up as a filler. Needless to say, I didn't smoke those. The shop was nice enough to give me a refund. So now we know the basics of the history, and we know the basics of what kinds of cigar there are and what makes a cigar a cigar. How do you cut a cigar? There are various ways to cut cigars before you use them. You will see a common one. The most common will be a flat cutter. I abhor these. I don't like them. It gets too much air in. It doesn't let the cigar burn properly, and it can screw up your tobacco. It's really easy to screw up the cigar wrap itself. If you've done that, you've cut too deep. So I use this little diamond or pyramid triangle cutter, whatever you want to call it. And how to cut them is you put it on the end, like so, open it, put it in here, and snip it. I'm not going to show the cutting because I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube. Maybe on the Patreon I'll add the cutting at the end. I don't know. I'm not going to cut myself on Patreon. I'm not going to cut myself anywhere. Not on purpose. But if you cut too deep, it's bad. You want to cut just enough to get down past the filler, but not to go over the shoulder. If you go over the shoulder, the tobacco will start to unwrap. That is a problem. An unwrapped cigar is a painful cigar to have. It's difficult to use. It makes it cumbersome. Then you get leaf stuck in your mouth. You got a piece of spinach-looking thing on your tooth. Chicks don't like you anymore at that point. Whatever. Now, lighting a cigar. I'm not going to show lighting a cigar either, YouTube. This is educational, but this is not, instructional. There are different ways to light a cigar. One of the most common ways you'll see is a Bic lighter is not a way to... You can do it with this, and I hate you. Don't use a lighter. This is for barbecuing. You'll see me do it once in a while on the show when I'm desperate and I'm smoking something terrible and crappy. We're not going to do that. What we're going to do is get either a torch, which burns hotter, and it burns most of the butane off. Okay? That way the butane isn't getting sucked into your tobacco and getting into your cigar and making your tobacco taste bad. The better way to do it would be to use wooden matches. You want to light it? You want to let the ammonia of the match burn off first as the match starts to crawl and the flame starts to grow, and then you want to puff on it while you roll your cigar around, kind of like you're roasting a marshmallow over a campfire. Another way is to light a piece of birch. You can get this at your cigar shop. In fact, if you buy a box of cigars, they usually come in these small cigar box humidor type deals. It's not a humidor unless you add an aerator in it or a humidifier in it. But needless, often they'll come with these, and these are for lighting your cigar. You want to crack these. You don't have to worry about the ammonia from the sulfur. Sorry, not ammonia, sulfur from the matches, because it burns the wood, and all that sulfur goes off, and then you can be free to light your stogie. But again, in a slow marshmallow-style roasting turn, you want to make. Now, don't overheat the cigar, so don't over puff on it. If you're over smoking your cigar, it becomes problematic. The proper way to smoke is to take a puff or two, hold it flat, as so, or to set it down. Again, guys, educational. I'm not suggesting you should do this. But lay it flat when you're not holding it, and then go back and puff it. If you over smoke it, it becomes too heated. When it becomes too heated, it tastes bad. It becomes bitter. It starts to taste not as nice. The flavor profile messes up. And you can end up getting what's called tongue bite. It actually feels like your tongue has a stinging sensation on it. If you're doing that, you're not doing it right. But don't undersmoke it either, because A, your cigar will go out. And then you'll have to relight the damn thing, and the flavor profile gets messed up by whatever you're lighting it with. It can taste like charcoal sometimes, and it can taste like other bad things that you don't want in your smoke. There's arguments about how far to smoke a cigar down. The founder of Davidoff had a whole thing he wrote about cigar etiquette, and I take a problem with this, because the guy sells the finest cigars on the planet, my favorites. Not my day-to-day favorites, but the ones like when I have the money, when I have between $20 and $50 or more to spend on a cigar. Believe me, it gets expensive sometimes. And we'll get into the cost change versus cigarettes too. Don't worry, we'll get the cost-benefit analysis will come up. But I don't like to smoke it halfway down. Davidoff says you should smoke it halfway down and then put it out. That's a polite way to smoke a cigar. I disagree, sir. And when your cigars are $30 a smoke, of course you're going to say smoke it halfway and start another one. Your old buddy Moo's going to save you a tip here, save you some money here and give you a tip. You don't have to do that. You can smoke it down a lot further. It's fine. Usually you want to get to about, right around there. It's probably on a safe zone to put it out. And when it's done, hypothetically, if you were to smoke, I'm not saying you should, you could use that and put it in your pipe tobacco. Use it for pipe tobacco. And that could hypothetically, I wouldn't suggest it, wouldn't suggest doing any of this. I'm not telling you how to do this, but if someone accidentally sprinkled it in their pipe and smoked it that way after it dries, it might still possibly work as pipe tobacco, and it might. Wink. Anyway, getting around as much as I can. So, smoke it, enjoy it. Or don't. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. But I want to talk about a couple of the main types of cigars you're going to see when you go out looking for your first stogie. Also, another term for cigar. You're going to see Connecticut's and Maduros. Okay? These are named for the rapper. There's not a rapper named Connecticut and Maduro. It's not like a hip-hop group, but the actual rapper on the cigar. Connecticut, referencing the Connecticut Valley River, I believe, in like New Hampshire, Connecticut, tobacco that grows along there. Maduro is more of a process of aging the tobacco that didn't take off until later. There's no original cigars that were Maduros. This is something that they had to age and sit and settle before they gained their nice darker sheen of the tobacco. And that can be most different things. There's different various types of tobacco. I'm not going to get into all of that right now. That's a whole different video for a whole nother time. You can get that in the long run. But to describe the two, Connecticut's are going to be more light, maybe a medium, light to medium smoke, whereas a Maduro will usually be a medium to heavier smoke. By that I mean flavor profile, how it sits in your mouth, the flavor of the smoke itself, which is what you're going for. That and the obscene amount of nicotine. When you smoke a cigar, you will feel lightheaded. You will feel a little odd because you are literally getting high. It is a form of high. What's happening is, because you're not inhaling, don't ever inhale a cigar. You're going to inhale a little bit inevitably if you smoke. It's going to happen. You're going to have secondhand smoke, whatever. But you can negate most of that. Unlike a cigarette, which you have to inhale the entire thing to enjoy, and it ruins your lungs and makes you die, cigars are different. They say, oh, cigars are not healthier. That's not true. And that is not accurate. They say that because they don't want you to use any tobacco products at all. Is it super healthy? No, it's not super healthy. Nothing enjoyable on this planet is super healthy. Do you think people go out of their way to eat kale because they freaking enjoy it? No, they do it because they want to live a little longer. It's not about enjoyment. It's about the social standing. It's about sitting there and eating in front of your friends and say, oh, I'm a novelist. I drink at Starbucks and I eat kale sandwiches. It's ridiculous. Stop it. That's dangerous. It's dangerous to all of society, not just to you. It might be healthy for you. It's killing the rest of us. Anyway, rant over on that. But cigars are, somewhat more healthy for your lungs, maybe not for everything else, than cigarettes. Is it like smoking a pack of cigarettes at one time? Yeah, because you're getting a psychoactive amount of nicotine in your system. It is going through the blood vessels in your mouth. So it can still absolutely cause cancer and other problems. So anything you do, you should do, you know, in bits. Don't do it, just don't overdo it. You can enjoy things in moderation and not get yourself screwed over. Once in a while, doing something like this is not going to hurt you. People will go and drink a ton of alcohol every day, all day long, and then tell you you can't smoke a cigar because it's nasty. I've never smoked a cigar and had a hangover or had to puke the next day in my toilet and not remember what I did or why there's random girls' numbers in my phone and pictures that shouldn't be in there of people I don't know. So let me tell you something, man. Alcohol's way worse than cigars, but we still okay with that. We're still cool. I'm not mad at alcohol either. Moderation. But to bring it back to what we're talking about, Connecticut versus Maduro, I prefer Maduros. This is my personal. Moo Juice, what do you like? I like Maduros. These are Robustos. I enjoy these. I like the size. I like the way it smokes down, the flavor profile of Maduro. These are Brick Houses. It's the same company for both the Connecticut and the Maduro. No, I'm not sponsored, but Brick House, if you want to send me some to do a review on, I wouldn't be upset. So, guys, hashtag Brick House for me. They make. I will say this about Brick House. They make a very solid, good, consistent smoke. I will say that, and this is not a review, but just the company overall provides a product. This is educational YouTube. A product that is consistent. There's a lot of brands that do that, but it depends. So these are around the $10 price range for a cigar. Here's where we get to the cost-benefit analysis versus cigarettes. A pack of cigarettes is what, $6 to $12, depending. I think the last time I saw a carton of cigarettes, it was like 60 and up, something to that effect. This is $10. I can smoke this cigar for 2 hours. Just one cigar. Maybe relight it one time. I see people smoke packs of cigarettes in an hour. That's insane. So are they cheaper? To a degree. This is a mid-level cigar. This is a $10 price range. I think this one was under 10 at 9 something, but tax where I live is absurd. And, it can last me for a while. And then I don't need one for a while. You can smoke one cigar a day and not have to go and sit and feel like you need to smoke because you've gotten more than enough nicotine in your system. And then you can put them down too. You can easily put a cigar down, unless you're a super addictive person, which you should that's going to be anything you do. So is it cheaper? To a degree? If you're smoking Davidoffs all day, no, it's not. If you're smoking 5 or 6 a day, no, it isn't. But if you're having one and being done with it, if you're using it as a pathway to stop smoking cigarettes all day, would I say that's a viable thing? I'm not a doctor. Would I say that I've seen people do that and be successful? Absolutely, I've seen that happen. So people wanted to stop smoking cigarettes every day. They switched to cigars, and they might smoke 1 or 2 cigars a day, and then it's down to 1 a day, and then it's down to 1 a week as they're slowly weaning themselves off because their lungs are better. My lungs are great. I smoke cigars frequently. And my oxygen saturation is around 99 every time I go to the doctor. So do the math on that one. I got friends that have freaking whatever it's called that kills you. It gets out the tobacco, the nicotine gets in your blood or whatever, and ends you. So, or not nicotine, the nitrogen, the gases get into your blood. I can't remember. COPD, that thing. I don't know how it actually works. I know it's very bad. I know I've lost friends over it. But I'm not saying it's safer, but it is. And I'm not saying it's healthier for you. And I'm not saying it's cheaper, but it is sometimes. And I'm not saying you should smoke cigars at all. I'm not saying that. I don't think that anyone that hasn't smoked should just start because I said do that. I wouldn't want you to. Does it make you more masculine? There is a scientific link. There is reason to believe that men that smoke cigars have a higher count of testosterone. There's a net positive. For all the negative you're going to want to think about anything, you can put a broad stroke brush over everything. But at least when you're lifting weights and running on the treadmill, you're not getting gassed and you're pumping more iron than the guy next to you that might snuff tobacco or just eats kale. Just saying. It also goes with the lifestyle and the mentality of it, I think, more than anything. That's probably more. Because mentality-wise, you're not seeing a lot of really floofy dudes with cigars. Women have also got. I don't want the ladies to feel like they should be left out of this because women do smoke cigars. In fact, there's a couple cigar companies owned by women that are, they make excellent product, and don't hate on them. Girls. I got cousins that are girls that enjoy cigars with their dad. So, it's what it is. It's not a good thing to start any of this stuff. I'm not gonna lie to you, but you know, think about it. Who is more successful? Who would you rather be like? The dude that's well off, owns property, owns a business, plays golf and smokes cigars, because it's the mindset and the mentality, or the dude that works at the fucking gas station and smokes cigarettes all day long? Who would you rather be like as a person? Not that there's anything wrong with the gas station folks, not that they're better people or worse people, but your personal goals in life, what would you rather do? Emulate what you surround yourself with is often what your life ends up like. I'm not saying that that's a justification for having cigars. Don't smoke cigars if you don't. If you don't smoke anything, don't start smoking anything ever. But if you've already tried cigars and you wanted to learn a little more, or if you're just curious about this stuff and wanted to learn more about it, that's what this video is for. And yeah, anyway, if you want to support this, I know for a fact YouTube's going to hate me for this, regardless of the fact that it's freaking educational. I do have a Patreon set up. It will be linked in the comments. If you want to support, do that. And I will do reviews of cigars on my Patreon. I won't do it on YouTube out of respect for YouTube and whatever. I'll make fake reviews somewhere, I guess. But it's going to be on Patreon if you want real reviews. If you're a company and you want me to review your cigars, or you like what I said, or you disagree with me, let me know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you're a cigar smoker, let me know what your favorite kinds are down below. How do you do it? How do you light them? How do you cut them? What's your favorite pathway to it? What got you into cigars? What's your best story with a cigar? Tell us in the comments below. Shoot some likes if you would. I appreciate it. If you don't like, dislike it. It's not going to hurt me. I do appreciate it. If you want to share the video, please do. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I really appreciate that. All right, guys. I'm going to go and steel myself to go see Terrifier 3.